start. All right, so here we are starting chapter 2, capitulum secundum of the Familia Romana, and in particular the genitive, numbers, and conjunctions, and a couple of interrogative pronouns. So let's start here with our initial prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So, what are we going to cover tonight? Well, as I said, we're doing chapter 2 here. We got a number of things: numeri, numbers, ordinalis et cardinalis, basically ordinal and cardinal numbers, and I'll explain what those are if you don't know what they are. And actually,
you're still in the homework page that I gave you. You need to
go. I am sorry, I did not change my screen. Thank you.
Exactly. You're welcome, sir.
There we go. Thank you for letting me know that.
I guess everybody else is sleeping.
No, I've been known to forget to switch.
No. It's somebody else should have noticed it too.
Yeah. So anyway, numbers, ordinal and cardinal. We really hit the casus genitivus, the genitive case. That's the possessive case. So if you've read the first part of chapter 2,
yes,
you will see that Julius pater Marci est. Julius is the father of Mark, etc. Then we have some interrogativa, quis, que, quad, cujus, and quat. And we'll talk about, sorry, it's quis. My Pius X is showing there when I say quis. Quis should be a short I. And conjunctions. So let's get started. Chapter 2, chapter 1 was kind of C-spot run. It was, pretty simple stuff. Well, with chapter 2, we actually begin to start a story about the Roman family. And the Familia Romana means just that, the Roman family. And so there's the next, 30 plus chapters, it's a story that they narrate. And the idea being is it's a little easy to understand a story as you read along, because you're expecting certain things in that story. And so it's a little easier to pick up the Latin than if we just plunk down, Thomas Aquinas Summa.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as I pointed out last time, the word familia, for which we get family, does not just mean our modern nuclear family, but it includes the entire household. So it has servants, slaves, obviously relatives, etc. And so it's a very encompassing. And you will generally, you'll often see familia translated as servants into English, or a number of other words. And that's because it's, it just doesn't mean, the nuclear family, father, mother, children. So just keep that in mind. And well, if you've read the first part of the chapter, you've already seen that. It introduces numbers, as in counting numbers, and then also place numbers, first, second, third. It adds the genitive case, which I've mentioned before. It adds interrogative pronouns. I'll tell you what those are. Really, just an interrogative pronoun is the who and the what, and the whose. In other words, pronouns that we stick in place to ask questions. Okay. And conjunctions, which join two sentences. That's a pretty short list in this in this chapter because you have et and you have said. Actually, I guess said was said from last chapter? I think you had it in the last chapter as well.
It was in the last chapter, but
Yeah.
it
Okay.
usually don't do this.
Yeah. And a lot of useful vocabulary. The nice thing about this is we get pater, mater, filius, and filia. Well, we have the filius Dei, the Son of God. We have the mater, Mary. And so while the story is not terribly, ecclesiastic or church related, you're going to pick up a whole lot of words that are very useful to you in reading the liturgy or the Bible. So I'm kind of jazzed that, I guess in the New Testament, St. Paul, they occasionally mention where a city was, but this will give you a little more to be able to read it. So anyway, let's talk about numeri. There are two types of numbers, and this is both English and Latin and just about every other language that I'm aware of. You have ordinal numbers, which tell you about the order of something. Okay, ordinal, order, ordo. So what that is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way out to, 100th, etc. There's only three they give you at this point. Primus, first, or primus, prima, primum. Second is secundus, secunda, secundum. And then tertius, tertia, tertium for third. So we'll probably add to that in a future date, but for now you have first, second, and third. And when they're ordinal, what that means is that order, okay, the order of things. Okay, if we say 3 churches, that is a cardinal number. That's a quantity. It doesn't tell you what order anything is. But if you say the first, then that is the order of things. First, second, that has distinct order. So that's how you can remember them. Is ordinal is for order, and cardinal is well, that's the other one, I guess, is probably a way to do that. Anyway, yeah, cardinal numbers, as I said, are for quantity and counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, etc. So the counting forms are uno, duo, tres, and then we also had sex or 6. I don't know why they skipped 4 and 5. 4 is quatuor and 5 is quinque, but they did. Maybe I'm sure we'll pick those up later. Now, most Latin quantity numbers are indeclinable. I think I spelled that right? Yeah, good. Meaning there's no change in their endings. So quatuor viri, quatuor insulae, and quatuor oppida. So 4 men, 4 islands, 4 cities. So once you get past 3, quinque would be the same thing. Quinque viri, sex would be the same, septem, octem, nonum, decim, and all the way on out. But 1, 2, and 3 do decline in Latin. Probably because they were the most common. I mean, if you think about it in English, we use the word few, which kind of means 2. I mean, we have a lot of, did I misspell Ooh, thank you. There are 2 T's in quatuor. Oh, silly me. Thank you, Laura, there. Yeah, Laura, you're going to have to be Alex until he shows up. Unless Allison wants to, take that place. Anyway, yes. All right, 1, 2, and 3 do decline. Yeah, I have a lot of typos in this one. I had to go over this charts about 6 times. Of course, I was distracted, so that's probably what happened. Anyway, but 1, 2, and 3 do decline in Latin. So the good news is unus, una, unum. That means one of something, and it only has singular forms. How can you have a plural one? You know, if it's one, it's singular, you know, definitions there. So it's the good news is, oh, Alex showing up, good. The good news is they're the same as the first and second declension endings that we saw. So unus vir, una filia, unum oppidum. So not too difficult. Now, duo is a little bit weird. Its forms are duo, due, duo. Okay. It follows a slightly different pattern. The difference, though, is this guy over here in the is the O and the for the masculine and the neuter, and so that's otherwise they follow a pattern unique to their own. Same with 3, tres, tres, and tria. Tres is masculine, tres is feminine, tria is neuter. They only have plural forms. You can't have a singular 3. And so right now we don't have to worry too much about how they are declined, nor do we have to worry too much about how these are declined. We'll get to them later. But for the moment, you know, unus, una, unum, duo, duo, due, duo, and then tres, tres, and tria, or 1, 2, and 3. And these are counting numbers. These are the ordinals. Cardinal. Primus and prima, primum are the ordinal numbers. So, okay, any questions on that? And actually, I think that's actually, I think, from the second readings and not the first readings. So I may have jumped ahead a little bit there. Questions?
Michael?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity then. So the unum is the neuter form?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Usually, okay, in Latin, it is usually standard to list the masculine, the feminine, and then the neuter forms of these of what amounts to adjectives. These are actually yes, they're not really adjectives. They're, well, anyway, but for words that have 3 genders, well, masculine goes first, feminine second, and then neuter third. And that's true of if you look in the dictionary, you will see that in those words that have the 3 different forms, etc. So yes, so masculine, feminine, neuter, masculine, feminine, neuter. And that's also true up here. Masculine, primus, feminine, prima, neuter, primum. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, genitive, casus genitivus, genitive case. All right, this really works very similar to English, okay? Singular is like English. Plural is sort of like English. English has singular and plural. And English also has the genitive or possessive case. You know, John's book, or you can say the book of John, either work. In English, we tend to do it this way. This way tends to be a little stiff or formal, okay? But it's certainly the same thing. Children's books, or the book of children. So, and anyway, like English, the ending on the Latin noun that is the possessor changes. And this is the important thing. It's not the book, okay, that is the possessor. It is rather John here. It's not the book that owns the children, but rather the children's that own the books. Oops, I need to put an S in there. There we go. So it is the possessor that changes. And again, same thing in English or Latin. So now,
Hey, Michael,
yeah,
can you go back one real
Yeah.
quick? I was noticing when on John's book or the book of John, when I see book of John, I think of something like the Gospel
yeah,
of
I
John,
know. Yeah.
and it's, you know, not just being more formal, but there's an extra connotation to that. Is there something similar to that in Latin?
Nope.
Okay, all right.
And the
Thank
reason it's called the Book of John is somebody did a very literal translation of the Latin. So, yeah, that's probably where it came from, is they just translated it literally into Latin, or I mean, from Latin into English. But no, either I could put equal signs here, okay? There's nothing, well, first off, in Latin, there is no of, okay? There is no of. So you really, you couldn't say, okay, book in Latin is liber with a short I, and actually that's on the next page about the macrons. So you can't say liber, liber of Johannes. That there is no of. So John's book, in fact, will let's see here. Well, actually, we'll see examples later on. So let me put off that until later on, where we see a lot of Latin examples. Anyway, why we are using macrons, I thought I would mention this. Since you have the word liber in your vocabulary and liberi, liber means child and liberi means children, plural. Liber means book, and the plural form is libri. So notice that's a short I, long I, long I. I'm talking about this first I, that is. Now, to make things even more interesting, liber, libera, liberum means free, and as in not a slave. I'm talking about a free citizen. It has nothing to do with the price. Okay, if you were to say a liber, that is a free male child, meaning not a slave. It does not mean you can go pick him up at the supermarket, for zero cost. So this is why one of the reasons we're using macrons is because it's important to distinguish between liber and liber. Now, in this unit, they're all libers, but I like to use liber in my, if you've read through the charts, you'll see that I've used liber, meaning book, in a lot of places to demonstrate the genitive case. It's not as bad as you might think, Laura. Trust me. But anyway,
English has just as many.
A liber, that's a free male child. But if you say a liber, that doesn't make any sense. That means it's an emancipated book. So, that's kind of meaningless. And the good news is there's all sorts of great potential for Latin puns, but we'll put those off until later. So,
question.
Yes.
So since liber means free as in not a slave and not as in that doesn't cost anything, what would the word for something not costing anything be?
I'm actually not sure. I'd have to go look that one up. I don't recall offhand. In English, we say the word gratis for free, but that's not right. Hold let's see. Let me type something in my dictionary here. I don't think my dictionary even says. Oh, I'm sorry. It is gratuitous. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Gratuity, gratuitous. Okay.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So would you know, so for the word for book versus the word for child, you would just figure it out, like, because macrons are a relatively recent invention.
Yes.
Like before that, you'd only figure it
Yes.
out based on the context. Am I right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And in fact, when we get through, let me find it. So how do you tell words apart with same end? Thank you, Laura. You make an excellent straight woman, but we'll get to that later. And whoops, let me get back here. Ordinal, whoop, too far. Yeah. Usually though, seriously, a lot of this is context, okay? If you're talking about children, then it's going to be liber. And in fact, yeah, you're going to use liber. And if you're talking about books, it's going to be liber. And yes, very articulate Latin authors can do tortuous things to Latin phrases that will tie you up in knots. Let's see, I think, is Maria? Oh, I thought I saw Maria online. Did Maria come and go? Oh, there we are. Maria's online. Okay. Maria, one of these days, will tell you about the Beach Boys song, Baba Baba Ran, which is actually which is actually a perfectly good Filipino phrase, which will also turn your mind inside out. So maybe later we'll have her recite it, which is like, you know, I mean, let's face it, there are people that will intentionally play off similar words in order to be amusing. So, but you will find that generally speaking, it's yeah, you're right. If somebody, well, if you, I just wrote the word on the screen, liber, you wouldn't necessarily know what I was talking about. So, and English is the same way. I've got examples, so we'll come on this. Anyway, the genitive case. Yes,
Michael,
yeah.
just going back about this. I just want to clarify. Good. I'm glad you're here. When you see words that do not have the background, say you see a word that has the letter I in it, and it
Right.
has no macron, should we assume that if it has no macron, that it's a short I?
For the purposes of this class, yes.
Okay.
And in the Familia Romana, that is also true.
Well, and I don't want to confuse things, but in the Collins book, when there are a lot of second person plural words and conjugating verbs that have an is at the ending, and none of those have macrons over it. And I've always understood that to be an is sound, not an is sound. And because they don't.
No, those should be short I's. They're all you're like Duco, Duchess.
Michael, that's what I just said. I said is. I didn't say is. I said is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that is correct. It would be Duchess.
Because they don't have macrons.
Correct.
Then I think the assumption is that it's a short I.
Yes.
And so the only reason why I'm using that as an example is that there may be cases
because I can't connect these headphones to that thing.
You got an open mic, Andrew. I mean Adam. There. Go ahead, Alex.
I don't know whether that will be the case in this text, but if there is a situation where there is no macron over the letter I, then I was just saying that just as is the case when you conjugate verbs in the second person plural, so many conjugations, so many tenses have that is ending, and it's an is sound, not an is sound. It's a short I.
Yeah, it
That-
depends on,
that-
well, an is ending is singular. You're thinking of,
No, capitis.
you're thinking of like istis or
Well, no,
duplitis.
I'm saying capitis.
Well, I'm sorry.
Capitis means you take, right? Ducitis means you lead.
Yes, but it's
Monetis,
singular.
monetis. No, that's plural.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said
Michael, you're getting
ducitis.
confused. I'm talking second person plural.
Okay, got it.
Ducitis, it means you all lead.
Yes, those are all short.
Capitis means you all take.
Yes,
Monetis
yes,
means
those are
you
all
all
short.
want,
Yes,
right? They're
yes,
all
those are all
short.
short.
And I'm saying that last I that has no macron over it, when they otherwise do have macrons in other places, suggests that it's a short I.
That is
And so
correct.
you can fairly assume that it is an is sound.
That is
And
correct.
I'm just saying, up until now, we've been using the short macron over the I to indicate that it's an is sound, but there may be cases where there is no.
No, actually, most of the time, actually, that's not true. Most of the times I do not use the short macrons. I did here intentionally to distinguish these words.
Okay, well, then that underscores my point. I'm saying where there is no macron over an I.
Like that word right there, genitivus. Yeah. So most of the
Okay.
times I do not use them, but in a few particular cases I will to emphasize vowel length. Okay.
My only point about all this is that this is an exercise in pronunciation.
And meaning, yes, both. Yeah. All right. So genitive, declinatio prima. Ooh, I think that needs to have. Hold on here. Oh, I left it off. Shame on me. Okay. I had an unusual difficult time getting everything straight on these set of charts. So I'm sure there are other ones. Yeah, and the reason I used the short macron there, which is a little cup-like, is because I didn't want you to think I'm talking about the women's children. So anyway, genitive is real easy. For a singular form, it is the A becomes an AE. And for the plural form, the A becomes an autumn. So the woman's book can either be liber feminae or feminae liber, either one. You can do either order in Latin. There is a tendency to put modifiers behind the noun that it is attached to, but that is by no means 100% rule. So the plural, the woman's book, see how much harder English is? It changes the word entirely, so it's much harder. Anyway.
I think you should lobby for macrons in English.
Hey, Michael,
Yes.
I think to be grammatically correct, the plural women's should have the apostrophe after the S.
Oh, you're right, shouldn't it? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's better. I knew that looked for strong.
That's another layer of difficulty for English.
I thought it was right the first time.
I mean, does the apostrophe go before? Does it go after? I
don't know. I'm pretty sure it was right the first time.
Oh, dear. Well, all right, hold on. Tell you what, let's look up. Hold on, let's look this up. Oh, no, it wanted it that way. Okay, sorry, but my spell checker maintains that it's that way. So anyway, well, let me put it this way. In Latin, it's clear. It's liber feminatum or feminatum liber. So this is why Latin is a vastly better language than English. And one of these days, I'll tell you that I think we should pass a law that makes all political speeches must be done in Latin, and that way we can tell if the politician is dealing with the subjunctive or not. And if you don't know what I mean, don't worry about it. You'll get the joke.
Ah,
Yeah, Alex knows what it means. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, okay. So any questions on the first declension? So you add an A, E, or femine to make it possessive, or you add an autumn, feminatum to make it plural. And there'll be a table here in just a moment. Well, actually, let's see. Yeah, there it is. So what I've done is I've taken the table that we had last time and expanded it. So, I've also kind of given an example. And when I say X here, X is a noun. So in the casus nominativus, it means, the form of the sentence is X is or is X. So for example, Britannia insula est. That's X is, or in the case of insula, it would be is X. So either when it's the subject or the predicate noun, I believe is the right term for that, then you use the nominativus case. Now we had the ablativus, Roma in Italia est, and then we had the bar over the A to indicate that it was a long A. I don't think we had any of the plural, but the plural is an is with a long I. And I've left the other cases in, but I guess that's browned them out. In the notes, they all came through. So when I print the notes, I do it with minimal colorization. Otherwise, it'll suck your ink dry. So, but really, these three are the one that we are having. With the genitive being the recent one.
So the first declension is always feminine?
Most of them are, not quite all of them. Okay. If you remember, I mentioned it last time. Papa, as in Pope,
Right.
is not feminine, despite what some German cardinals may think. So it is treated as a masculine noun. So you would say Papa Meus, my Pope, as opposed to Papa Mea. By the way, the German, good grief, the Latin word for father is pater, okay, which many of you already know. But my potato, what? What does that mean, Laura? I don't quite follow. Oh, that's right. I remember people mentioning that last time. Yes. No, I don't think so. Papa, well, in fact, that's what the Italian word is. In Italian, the word for Pope is Papa. And of course, in English, Papa means daddy, if you wish. And the Latin word equivalent of daddy is tata. So my children would say tata meus, meaning my daddy. So they would use the masculine form there. But almost all of the A endings are feminine. There's just a few that are not feminine. And I believe the book will mention them as we go along. For the moment, I think you can be safe and say they're all A. Yeah, that's true. Potatoes are very native to the Americas, and the Romans wouldn't know what to do with a potato. They'd look at it and say, "Oh, that's nice." All right, so how does this all work? I'm going to give one example here of insula. I'm not going to ground through all the various forms for the various words because we'd be here all night. So nominativus insula singularis, pluralis est insulae, genitivus singularis insulae, and just like English, for many, many words, bone and bones, the singular and the plural are the same word. Now, we distinguish them in English with apostrophes, but try reading. Actually, what would be interesting, I don't know if I can dig it up, would be like a copy of the, like one of Shakespeare's original plays. English grammar, punctuation, and spelling were not standardized until quite late. But anyway, insulae and pluralis est insula. Ablativus singularis est insula. Ablativus pluralis est insulis. So, any questions there? Good, because I want to go to the second declension. This one, we got a lot more root words to cover because the first declension only has a ending words. So pretty simple. The second declension, though, has several different endings. Okay. And the reason these are all grouped together, as you'll find shortly, is the pattern is virtually identical across them. What is different is you got to fiddle to get the root a little bit. You got to tweak it. So we're going to take one at a time. Masculine. This is an easy one. The US, filius, US ending. So the US goes to I, and the US, sorry, this is the possessive. The US aurum. So the son's book is liber filii, and there is a long I on the end. In fact, there's two I's, filii, so filii, or filii liber. So either one, you can say it either way. And in fact, what you could think of is you could think of this as the son's book, and you could think of this as the book of the son. Okay. And actually, when I am reading Latin, now I do not translate in my mind into English, it's too slow. But mentally, I have a picture of what would be the English equivalent of the son's book. And this one, mentally, I would think of it as the book of the son, because I would see the book, I'd see of son, or so anyway, but either way you can say it. And then the son's book, plural, is liber filiorum or filiorum liber. Okay.
I think an exercise, Michael.
What? Yeah.
I think an exercise we should have as an exercise where we repeat filii 10 times as fast as you can.
What, you mean filii, 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 like that? I've had a
You're
little.
not the person that needs to say.
Yeah, I know. Let's see, I think you missed the colloquium, didn't you?
Oh.
Where we all read. I think you were, was that a birthday? I forgot now what you said. Anyway, I think you missed it. Yeah, what I tend to do is at the end of the chapter, we will have what I call a colloquium. And basically, we all take turns reading through the Latin, and that way I can check on people's pronunciation and stuff. And then they can ask. So I guarantee.
Well, I missed that.
Yeah, I
missed that
believe you missed
so
that.
I wouldn't get caught.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get caught saying the wrong thing.
Yeah. So anyway, so you'll get a chance. Anyway, masculine IR. Okay, now we introduced an important word, Veer, and that is man as in an adult male. Okay, now Latin has a couple different words for males and females. Veer is man. Femina is woman. No surprise there. We get the word feminine, female, etc. You may have heard the word homo. It is a short O, please. Please do not say homo. Although, yeah, in the creed, at home, yeah, you will hear at homo factus est and was made man. That's not true. It should be at homo factus est. But between okay, Pius X would make it long. Yeah, okay. He had his reasons. I'm not going to beat him up too much, you know. But anyway, that is often translated as man, but that is the old generic English man, meaning person, human being. Okay. So this is very important if you go back and read Genesis. In English, it's totally lost because we cannot distinguish between male as in man, and man as in generic. And so it's very in the Vulgate, it's very clear that when God created man, it was Homo, okay, meaning both, you know, the human race.
It's close to mankind.
Yeah, mankind might be that's probably probably the best we're going to do in English these days. But anyway, but Veer is male, and there's no way around it. And in fact, in some of the Psalms, that's they've tried to use gender inclusive language, and the difficulty is in some of the Psalms, they are prophecies about the Messiah, and Veer is a very important, you know. And by the way, Hebrew, my understanding is Hebrew has the same triple set of words, and so the problem is people took the English and then applied their preconceived notions of how the English should be and ran with it. So, but anyway, I'm digressing. But Veer, man, adult male. Now, this has no US ending, which is a good thing, because if we put a US in there, it would be virus. And that looks suspiciously like the English word virus. And they are related. Virus is kind of slime, icky stuff. Okay. So when you have a virus, you definitely have virus. So, but Veer is a second declension word. And so you just leave the IR on there. You know, you kind of pretend like the US fell off somewhere. So Veeri would be plural. Well, it would be both the genitive and the nominative plural. But you just treat it, Veer as the root. You know how we said you drop the US? Well, there's no US there to drop. So just pretend, you know, just put the endings on Veer as your base. So the man's book, Liber Veeri, or Veeri Liber, your choice. The men's book, see, I think that's right. Let me look up men's. Oh, well, I guess they don't have it. But if I do it the other way, it says, no, go back the other way. So Liber Virorum, or Virorum Liber. And this is something that's very nice. The plural possessives, and I'm going to jump, okay. Well, hold on, let me find, did I do it here? Yeah, here I did it. Oh, I don't have the feminine, sorry, I don't have the second, I don't have the first declension with it. But the first declension, we had an autumn, and in the second declension, it is an autumn. So all you got to do is change one letter, you know, in your brain to do these. And that's true. Oh, by the way, that's true of the filiorum as well. So the Veer and the filius are done identically. The difference is that Veer has no US ending. And so you just, No, the first declension does not only contain feminine nouns. I think I answered that a few minutes ago.
No, yeah.
No, I'm talking to Laura on her message. Mostly, probably, I don't know, I never counted, but they are mostly feminine. The only time they are not feminine is when they refer to a human being, and that human being is clearly male or female, like Papa. Okay, that's it. You got confused with the potatoes. Yes. Agricola, farmer. Now, today you can have farmers who are men, farmers who are women, but agricola is a masculine noun. So there's a couple of, at least I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. That's before I steer everybody down the wrong path here.
Is it sailor another one of those?
Yep, it's masculine, as I thought. Okay.
Michael?
Yeah.
Something you said a minute ago struck me, and I just want to see if I've got this straight. There may be passages in the Bible or in the Psalms where the word Veer is used, and because it's been translated into English as man, it's a big mistake, from what I understand what you're saying, for people to try to use gender inclusive language to say person or something like that, as opposed to man, when you actually have Veer as the word instead of Homo. Is
correct. That is
okay?
Correct.
Okay, and it's really it's a matter of being faithful to what the meaning is in the Bible.
Yeah, the assumption, and it's a naive one, that everywhere the word man is, they have to they make the assumption that it's the old version of man, which they don't like, and so therefore they have to inclusivize it, and that's just not the case. The Hebrew, the Greek, and the Latin all agree where it is a male, a female, or a generic person. So it's a, what do you want to call it? A abuse of scripture is really what it is. So, and we might find some. What I mean is we might discuss that in a later lesson after we build up some vocabulary. Okay, so we did the IR. Now the ones that are a little tricky. Okay, well, actually, no. Unfortunately, in Latin, homo, yeah, exactly. Homo means man, but homo in Greek means the same. That's why you buy homogenized milk. It's been all mixed up. Yeah, it's a case of yeah, that's true. Phobic is Greek as well. That's true. All phobias are Greek. I guess you could say the Romans had no phobias. Keep that in mind. Anyway, next one. ER. And there's a distinguish between the vowel plus ER, like puer, and I'm going to jump, or consonant plus ER, like liber. That's why I've been beating on that word. Let's do the vowel plus ER, which is puer. In the puer case, you keep the ER just like you did the IR and all the other places. So ER plus I for singular genitive, and ER plus aurum for the pluralis. So the Veer and the puer look identical. So you would say liber pueri, like we said, liber viri, or pueri liber. Again, word order, take your pick. The boys' book plural, liber puerum or liber virorum. And then, or puerum liber. Where you got to be a little bit careful is the consonant plus ER. So here we have liber, and here's the consonants sitting right there in the middle. You drop the E. So in this case, example, it becomes LBR. So you have pagine libri or pagine liber. Now, think about this. If we were to keep that E, it would be pagine liberi, okay? Doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely as libri. Anyway, the plural is librorum. Well, actually, liberi is probably not too bad, but liberorum is a bit of a mouthful. So anyway, pagine librorum or librorum, liber, either way. But the only difference for some of the ER nouns is you just drop that E and you go from there. I don't think, I'm pretty sure Puer is in this chapter. I don't think I don't remember if it was in the first or second. I tend to read the whole unit. But you'll find it. And by the way, puer means exactly that. I went to the, there we go. Puer is a boy or a male child. There is no way around it. Puella is a girl. And you can kind of see the PU is the root, and you typically see ERs on male endings and then Ella in female endings. So we'll see more of that later, how to masculine and feminize.
Michael?
Yeah.
That rule that you're talking about, that applies in other declensions too, like pater becomes patri or patris.
Pater is...
That's a consonant before the ER. So, right?
Yeah, I never thought about it. You're right, it does. Well, let's talk about the third declension in chapter 9.
No, I know. All I'm
Yes.
saying is
this
is a rule. This rule about the vowel preceding the ER and the consonant preceding the ER, that applies to other declensions where you have that similar circumstance. That's all.
Yes. And Laura asked the question, does liber for child follow the same declensions as liber for book? Yes. Exact same. I think, let's see. Yeah. Liber, book. Libri, books. Liber. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. No. Sorry, excuse me. Liber is child, liberi. Oh, okay. Hold on. Oh, there's an there's an exception. I didn't think of that. Liber. Okay, let me look at this for a second. Did I mangle it? Liber, liberi.
Well, maybe they do that just to distinguish the two.
Interesting. I never really thought of it.
But maybe that's why that they're distinguishing the two.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Huh. I never noticed that that's an exception to the rule.
But doesn't it make sense that they would try to distinguish the two?
Probably, but yeah, you're right. That is an exception because liber is these are all second declension nouns. Of course, this is the adjective, so these are all second declension. But interesting, I never thought about it. Oh wow, there's an exception. Okay, well, we'll see if we run into any more exceptions.
But Michael.
Yeah, no, there's a good reason to do
there's
that.
a reason why that's an exception. It's because you've got two words that are, except for the macrons,
Yeah, possibly.
They're the same in the nominative
yeah.
first.
Certainly, that's certainly possible. Certainly possible. I can't say as I really thought about it. Okay, anyway, this is a summary of the declension endings. Again, the genitive case. We've already had this in the nominative. So here's, filius, filii, filius, filiorum. Veer, viri, virorum. The O is long, and that means the accent is on that O. Puer, pueri, puer, puerorum. I can't speak tonight. Liber, libri, liber, librorum. So part of that is makes it a little easier to pronounce by dropping some of those vowels. You'll by and large, Latin tends to flow off the tongue very well. There's a few, that are kind of hard for English speakers because we don't normally join those sounds together. But by and large, my experience is that it rolls off the tongue pretty well. So let's see, what do I got next? Oh, neuter. Yes, let's not forget the neuters. Neuter is really easy because all neuters in the second declension end in um. And we form the, so to make the genitive, oppidum, oppidi, and then to make the plural, oppidum, oppidorum. So for neuter ending nouns, the endings are pretty much the same as, well, the endings are the same for the masculine as nouns and most of the others. And there we go. Now this is the big table. So you can see.
Michael?
Yeah.
Isn't that oppida?
No, these are genitive.
No, you have, for plural, you have oppidum, oppidorum. So it's oppida,
No. From
oppidorum.
the singular to the genitive plural.
I'm talking about plural.
Yeah, no, I put in singular in all of these, didn't I? Did I switch?
Oh, okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were showing the plural nominative.
No. I'm taking, I'm starting from the genitive singular, well, the genitive base word, oppidum. And then the, this would be the thema, and this would be the terminazione. Or sorry, the terminatio.
Okay, you're just talking, you when you repeat oppidum, you're repeating the nominative.
Yes.
Singular.
To go from nominative to the.
Okay, I thought you were
plural
doing nominative singular on the left.
Well, no, that's why it's basically.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I just misunderstood.
So it might be better to have used the plurals there, but I didn't. So anyway, let's see now. Okay, now I realize there's going to be a boatload of endings you've got to master, and yeah, it's called memorization, which is a 4-letter dirty word in today's society. But really, it's not quite as bad as you might think. We just covered these 4 cases. And you start a little bit differently, but you see the genitive is the same. When we get to the dative, it's the same. When we get to the accusative, it's the same there. And the ablative, it's the same. The plural nominative is the same for the masculine, but that becomes an A. The genitive plural are all orums. Dative is all east. Accusative is a little different. The ablatives are the same, and then the vocatives are the same. So, it's not quite as bad as you might think. And so, what I recommend is when you have the time, well, once we get this table filled out, I'll show you some exercises. Let's just put it off for now. Right now in the reading, it's pretty clear whether you're nominative or genitive plural. And I'll talk about what happens when you have the same endings here in a minute. Anyway, I wanted to mention that for the US or the adjectives ending in USA or sorry, like multus, multa, multum, or parvus, parva, parvum. What other? Oh, manius. Yeah, we had manius, mania, manium. They follow the exact same pattern as these. So if you can get these two down, then by default you have those down. Oh, how do you pronounce intelligitisne? I just answered you, I think. Intelligitisne.
Intelligitisne.
Yes. Intelligo is I understand, which is a much easier word to, yeah, that is one difficulty in Latin. English tends to have lots and lots of short words, you know, single syllable, double syllable, maybe even a triple syllable, you know. In fact, but Latin will have some really long words that as you compound endings, but it is intelligitisne. It's I-T-S-C, I-T-I-S. That's that plural ending we were talking about. And then the N-A or the ne is the enclitic, making it into a question. So
it's the second person
plural.
singular.
No, this
plural.
singular
Yeah,
would be
got it.
intelligis.
Intelligis would be second
Yes.
person singular. Intelligitis would be plural.
Yeah.
So it's you all.
If there's only one student in class, then I could say intelligisne. But anyway, all right. Now for, I think it was Laura's question, if I'm not mistaken, and I know Michael had this problem too. How do you tell apart the words with the same endings? And in particular, in this case, the plural nominative and the genitive singular, which have, and there's other places they have the same ending. So this applies to other cases, but this one is particularly exciting. Well, sometimes you can tell by what makes sense. So if I say filiae, filiae, and by the way, normal Latin speakers would avoid this, okay, confusion, okay. They would use a different set of words. But if you did see that, what would it mean? Well, we know that filiae means daughters, plural, or daughters, possessive, okay? And there's a couple of other AE ending words. And I don't, if you go back up here to the, there's the dative, and we're forgetting, we're ignoring those for a moment. So those that know that endings, they don't exist at the moment. So, all right, what does that mean? Well, it could be daughters, daughters, meaning it could be this twice, but daughters, daughters does not make sense in English. I mean, what is that? Or it could be daughters, daughters, possessive, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense in English. Or it could be daughters, daughters, both are possessive, which I would translate that as maybe the granddaughters something or other. So in other words, the daughter of my daughter owns something. Okay, maybe. That's a very we generally don't say my daughter's book. Yeah, I mean that's a little. You could. It's validating. You'd say maybe my granddaughter or something. You wouldn't stick them together. But daughters. Now that makes sense. You know, my daughter has daughters. So therefore, okay, yeah, granddaughters. I could see that. So. Yeah, sometimes you can kind of figure it out by what makes sense, and the other forms make no sense at all. Then there are other times you can only tell by context, because if we were to do filiae, filii, well, filiae, see, oh, I don't think I got all the macrons. Shame on me. I'll fix that later. Filiae means daughters or daughters, as we said, and then filii means sons or sons. Now we have 8 combinations. Yes, if you have 4 things taken 2 at a time, that's 8 combinations. I have a mathematical formula for that if you're interested. Well, okay, it could mean daughters, sons. Well, in English, they're both plural, so no. You could say daughters, sons. No, we always put the possessive first. We never put the possessive second. Unlike Latin. Latin, you can put the possessive in front or back, but in English, you got to have the possessive in front. There's no way around it. So that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, number 3 and number 7.
Yeah. Now you could be talking about my daughter's sons. That makes sense. Talking about grandsons. Okay, that works. You could possibly do daughter's sons, meaning my daughter's son owns something. Yeah, it's kind of like the one we had up here with this one. Awkward, but yeah, okay, it could make sense. Sons, daughters, again, you can't, 2 plurals doesn't make any sense. Sons, daughters, possessive on the second doesn't make sense, got to be first. So you could have sons, daughters. So just like my daughter's daughters, my son's daughters would be my granddaughters. That would work. And sons, daughters, again, maybe my granddaughters, something or another. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities out of 8. And I would say this one and that one, 3 and 7 are the most likely. And without the context of which that was extracted, you have no way of knowing, okay? So you really need to know the context of the sentence. And you say, but wait, what about English? Oh, that's terrible. English doesn't have it. No, that's not true. If I say, I read the book, or I read the book. Now, if I'm speaking, we distinguish, okay, granted. But if I wrote it down on a slip of paper or in an email and sent it to you, and that's all I said, you don't know whether I mean I'm reading the book right now, present tense, or the past tense. I read the book last week. So English has these ambiguities as well. Secondly, we talk about daughters, daughters. Well, if I just said daughters, daughters, you don't know if I meant daughters, daughters, or daughters, daughters, or daughters, daughters, or daughters, daughters. Those 2 words without any context can actually also mean 1, 2, 3, 4 different things in English, okay? So English has the same sort of problems with certain grammatical constructions that the only way you can tell is context. Now, to be fair to both English and Latin, it's rarely there is any difficulty. Okay, unless the author or speaker is making a pun or a joke or wants to mix things up or, some little amusement thing. So it may seem a little mind-boggling at the moment, but you generally parse English fairly well when there is ambiguity, and that's because you've had experience with the language and you generally know the context in which it is given in. So it's not as bad as you might think. I think that's the end of that. Oh, okay, good. Any questions so far?
Until it go.
Optime, that means excellent. Okay. Now we get into my problem is switching between Latin and English. I got to load a whole bunch of things here. Yeah. Interrogativa. Short O, interrogativa. There we go. Interrogatives. So I'm sure you've heard the old who, what, where, when, and why, which was supposed to be the hallmark of journalism, and was at one time. I guess those are too big a set of words for a journalist to remember these days. We did see where already. We said ubi est Roma. And we've seen what, quid Creta est. Okay. And remember, an interrogative is merely the key word that you use in order to ask a question. Okay. And it's generally a question that there is an unknown in, kind of like math, solve for X. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. In this chapter, you get quis and quae, which are singular, and qui and quae, which are plural. Now, they don't use these guys that I'm aware of in in chapter 2, but I'm going to give you the entire set. Okay, we've kind of gone through all of these singular and plural and all this other stuff. Whoops, too far. And whoop, too far. Okay, where was I? Oh, there we go. Come on, there we go. I should mark where I am. That way I won't get lost as easily. So so I'm going to give you the plural forms anyway. Okay. And we had the genitive form. We get the genitive form whose, cuius. Now I believe cuius is actually in section 2, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. And then the plural quorum. That does not mean you have enough folks to, hold the meeting. And how many, what. I believe, quat liberi, how many children? I'm pretty sure that was somewhere in there. So let's talk about.
There's a term aliquot.
Yes, yeah. For ali and quat. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get into that. There are a bunch of compound words that result from these. Qui, cum, que, which literally means whatever. But anyway, interrogative pronouns: who, whom, and whose, and what. An interrogative. Now we're talking specifically about interrogative pronouns. It is used to ask a question. Okay. It's a pronoun that stands in place for the noun, which is unknown in the question. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask the question. And as I said, it's sort of like algebra, where you are asked to solve for X. Probably easier than algebra for most of you, but either way. In Latin, as with any of its other nouns, the interrogative pronouns have to agree in genus, numerus, and casus with the missing noun. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, if it is a masculine thing, a male thing, or masculine in general. Yeah. If it is a male person, if it is a person, in English, we use who, and in Latin, you use who, but you use the word quis. Quis Jesus est. Who is Jesus? If it is a feminine noun you're asking about, such as mater, quae mater Jesu est. Now, I stuck in the genitive of Jesus. Jesus is it? I don't know whether why it ended up that way, but Jesus has his own unique declension. I suppose, in a way, him being the man God, that's kind of appropriate. But anyway, that's the genitive form, and I wanted a good sentence in there. So, quae mater Jesu est. Who is the mother of Jesus? So quis Jesus, quae mater. Mater is feminine, Jesus is masculine. Now, you can use quis for generic, meaning you don't really know whether it's male or female. Okay. So if somebody knocks on the door and you could say, quis est, who is it? So if there's, if you know the gender of the subject, that you're talking about, then you should use the appropriate form. But if it's generic, then you would say quis est. Neuter.
Or if
quickly.
you're talking about a group of people that have boys in it, you would also use the masculine.
Yes, yes. Yes.
A quick thing. What is the difference between the masculine and the generic for the who?
None.
None. So it's just like, so it's like basically Spanish where the masculine will be used for both, for if it's a group of men and women.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which declension is Jesus in? It's in its own declension. It's not. It's in its own declension. It's an irregular. It's one of the few irregular, lack of a better term, irregular nouns in Latin. So, but I think it makes sense. He's special, so hey, he should get his own declension, right? Let's see here. All right. If you want me to bring it, I think it's, oh, wait, let's see. Oh, there it is. All right, here we go. If you have oh my, it doesn't even have the declension in my table. Oh, well, anyway. Also, there are no plurals to it. So we'll learn about it as we go along, so don't worry about it. Anyway, for neuter nouns, you will use quid. Now, the neuter form is also used for things. And that's why if you think, you go, oh, wait, Creta, that's feminine. Yes, it is. So why isn't it quae est Creta?
Because it's not a person, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's not a person. In fact, if you said quae est Creta or quae Creta est, you would be asking, who is this person named Creta? Okay.
Yeah.
So so what you do is for things, and we do this in English too, for people, we use who, right?
Mhm.
And for things, we use what. So quis and quae are who, and quid is what, or maps to what in English. So, so quid is used for things. And so the usual gender rule does not apply. So you would say, and I've got some examples here in just a minute. Yeah, plural. Here we go, plural. So in masculine, quis becomes qui. Actually, let me do this in real time. That way, before I forget. Let's see here. There. So. Yeah, now this is interesting in that quae becomes, whoops, can't type in real time. Quae becomes quae, so it's kind of interesting that there is no change there. Oh, that's the wrong, there we go. And then quae in, oh, yeah, and then neuter, which is quid, becomes quae. Whoop, Q-U-A-E. I know. I believe it or not, I know how to type. And so let me tighten this. There we go. Doesn't that look better? There we go. So quis becomes qui, quae stays as quae in the plural, and quid becomes quae. So qui viri sunt, who are the men, quae filiae est, who are the daughters. Now, notice that isn't who of the daughter is. That would make absolutely no sense. So you immediately, whoa.
It should be sunt, shouldn't it?
Good. Yes, thank you. I realized, I told you I had a heck of a time typing this for some reason. I don't know what my problem was. There we go. Probably everything that's good.
Oh,
Anyway, quae filiae sunt. Okay.
Mhm.
Quid becomes quae, and so quae oppida sunt. What are cities? Who are the daughters? And who are the men? So,
would that be considered when you say quae opida? Does that take on the feminine gender, so to speak?
no, because oppida plural is well, the plural of a neuter noun is an a ending. Yeah, okay. When I say that the a ending words are all feminine, I mean in the nominative, in the base form. Okay.
You mean that nominative singular?
Yes, in the nominative singular form, if it ends in a, it is most of them are feminine.
Yeah.
As we saw, yeah, as we can see up here, the plural of a neuter noun ends in a. That doesn't suddenly make it feminine. Okay, that just means it's a neuter plural. So, as I said, some of these, and we saw where some of these endings overlap. So, yeah, one, unum, oppidum, duo, oppida.
Opida.
So, whoops, let's see here. So where were we? Oops, I got ahead of myself. Yeah, so quae oppida sunt. What are cities? So, all right. So here is a whole table of them. I said these are interrogative pronouns, and they're what we use for questions. Now, there is something that is called a relative pronoun, which looks similar. For example, Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. The qui here is not a question, okay? This is what's known as a relative pronoun. Qui refers back to Agnus Dei. So you might translate this as Lamb of God. And really, this is a thou in there. We don't usually put that there in English, but this is very much a thou form, qui tollis, second person singular. So this is addressed to God. It is not a well, it is a statement, obviously, about God. But the point is it is a prayer to God. It is not a statement or it's not an independent statement about God. If we made this a tolet, then it would be Lamb of God, he who takes away the sins of the world. So English doesn't always distinguish, Latin will distinguish things that the English often doesn't, although to be fair, it works the other way in some cases. Anyway, these are all the forms. There is no vocative form for the interrogative pronouns, okay? Because the vocative is for calling people, like Marce, which would be, yo, Marcus. Well, you wouldn't say, quis, and, unless you were talking to Doctor Who. Then you might use a vocative form. And if you don't know who Doctor Who is, then forget it, the joke died. So anyway. If you don't know who Doctor Who is, then you should actually go find out, because he is kind of a cultural icon. So, but look at the old series, not the new series. The new series is junked up with British wokeism. They really mangled it. So anyway, any questions, except for Doctor Who? I will not entertain any of those, since that's off topic.
Would Michael?
Yeah.
In distinguishing that's right. What we're doing is we're distinguishing interrogative pronouns from relative pronouns.
Yeah, we'll have relative pronouns later. They will look a lot the same. Yeah, I know. About 2017 is where it went south.
The point is that it introduces a dependent clause.
Yes, yes, it introduces a dependent. They look a lot the same, okay? But as you saw, this quis became a qui here. So, but you know, it'll look a lot the same. So, all right. Examples, exempla. No, quis qui would be who. Who are you would be quis est. Quis est. Yeah, here we go. It would be everyone. There we go. Quis est. There we go. Yeah, you'd have to use, you remember, if you remember column sum, I am, s, thou art. Yeah, we haven't learned all of the to be verb forms yet, but don't worry, you'll get to them. Anyway, oh, I did use it as an S up here. Okay, I cheated, didn't I? Anyway, quis est, who art thou? Qui viri sunt, who are the men? Okay, some of these we've had before, but I kind of wanted to put them all here in one place. Quae mater Jesu est, who is the mother of Jesus? Oh, cuius filius dicit. Oh, I forgot to mention the cuius. Cuius is the genitive form of quis, okay? And English has the same thing, who, whose. You know, whose is the possessive form. So cuius filius dicit, whose son is speaking. Now I had to put a different word in there because I needed a verb in order to make sense of these. So pardon the words you haven't had. Quadam filiae canunt, whose daughters are singing, because cuius is singular and quadam is plural. And if you go back, you see that. Quid est Creta? What is Crete? Quae insulae sunt? What are islands? And the plural of quid is quae. So the good news is they've stuck most to the singular forms at the moment. So I fully admit I'm piling some more forms on you, but don't worry about it too much because they'll come back to haunt you later and then you'll have to learn them. But in the meantime, you can at least recognize the singular forms that they use and kind of prepare you for the future. All right. Oh my, we have 30. Oh yeah, we got a bunch of slides left. Okay. So we'll stop it there. It's 9 o'clock. How far has everybody gotten through the first part of chapter 2?
I read up to line 24 and I did the first exercise.
Set of exercises, okay.
That was really, I mean,
But
it was pretty good.
yeah, what I want to do is part 2. But what I want to find out is if people are more or less keeping up with stuff, at least the reading. You may be a little bit behind on the exercises. I'm not too worried about that. Let me put it this way. Has anybody not read chapter 2, part 1? Let's do it this way.
Part 1, yes.
Part 1, everybody read. Okay. So then we'll go ahead and go on to part 2, and I will cover the rest of these. Quat is for how many? Quat liberi sunt in familia. Yes, we are having. Well, there's nothing special. Let's see. What is? It's the 16th, right? No, there's 17th is
St. Joseph.
19th is St. Joseph. 17th is St. Patrick. So is there something on? Oh, spring break. Well, who's not going to make it to class for spring break? Let me ask that.
Yeah, I'm going to Cabo. Yeah, right.
You're going
I'll
to
probably make it for class.
Michael, did you say you weren't going to be able to make it?
No, it was a bad joke. I'm going to Cabo. with
Oh,
everything
I
in
see.
Mexico, are you kidding me?
Yeah, okay. Pick me up some authentic,
Tequila?
yeah, Afghani food.
Ah, Afghan.
Anyway, okay.
You know what? Where does part 2 start on chapter 2? On chapter 2,
Oh dear. Okay. Let me see.
maybe I'm a little behind on my reading.
Well, hold on. Yeah. I don't want to get too far. Let me okay, where
I read through line 24, and then I looked at
here is
the rest
chapter
of that page.
2. Oh, hold on. I got to log in again. Because there we go. Hold on. I
think
timed
it stops at line 24, the first reading where
that sounds about right.
and I went through that, and then I go, well, this doesn't look too bad. I think I'm beginning to understand some of this. And
Yeah.
I read the next paragraph, and I kind of getting the gist, but
Yeah, here it is. Yeah. And this is where you get a lot of the
interrogatories.
yes, you get the interrogatories, which is true, but you also get you get more of the genitive. Well, there's a lot of genitives in this whole thing. There's genitives all over the place. You get cuius. I think this is where the first cuius is. Cuius servus est davus. Literally, whose servant or slave, either one, is davus. And so you get some of the numbers. And where does this stop? Whoops, hold on. Oh, there it is. Quis est Cornelius. Okay, so all right, tell you what, let's oh yeah, what page am I on? You're right, I did it again. Sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to follow you here.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Summary page. Yeah, there you go, right here.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, you're forgiven.
Normally I share my entire screen, but I got all sorts of stuff up and I want to concentrate.
Yep, and it says, yeah,
So, yeah, here it is. This is where it starts.
Right.
And this is where it
goes to 24, and then 25 to 61 is the next section, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So
So they went from us.
yeah, let me go back, and now I can put up another window that you can't see and talk from it. There we go. Yeah, let us aim for going through part 2. And I believe these set of notes were designed to pretty much cover everything in chapter 2. So yeah, we'll go through part 2 and try the exercises. There are a whopping number of exercises in this section. Let's see, 5. Yeah, there are actually 5. What we'll probably do is review parts 1 and 2 next week, and then kind of let everybody catch up, and then see if we have if we're far enough along to hit part 3. So we'll kind of look at that next week and see where we are.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm way behind in grading. In fact, I think I forgot how many are up there. I have not been I've been tied up with the friend who's critically ill that I mentioned last
What's she doing?
week. Oh, she's dying. There's no question. It's a matter of when. And but we don't want to leave her. She is in a nursing home in hospice care, but we don't want to.
Is she conscious and aware?
She comes in and out. She comes in and out. So we don't want to leave her alone, or try not to leave her alone for any length of time.
Friday morning, I left the mask, and I offered that mask to her.
Michael, could you give us her name so that we can keep her in
Oh,
our
certainly. Alice.
Right.
Okay, we'll keep Alice in our prayers.
Oh, please do. The good news is we were able to arrange for her to receive the sacraments, and so we were quite happy about that.
Yeah, that was a touch and go last time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. now I got to deal with some of her relatives who haven't darkened the interior of a church since probably Pope Pius X himself. But that's another
Well, I was
problem.
one of them too, so I mean, you know,
I know. Yes, I need to be patient with them.
yes.
But some of the, well, no, let's not get down. We'll be
Yeah, I
telling
know.
stories all night.
You know,
As it
real
is.
quick, I hate to, with this Latin, how they're trying to, you were talking earlier about they're trying to almost make it inclusive male, female.
Oh, yes.
I get the feeling that that's the way they're going to get away from Latin and go strictly with.
No, Latin is embedded in the church. Okay. The notion, I realize with Francis's deep love of the TLM,
Right.
may seem that way.
Yes, I agree.
And the whole thing to me is a mystery because, well, we'll save this for after we'll stay on after the closing prayer and we can talk about it. But
Okay.
otherwise, yeah. But briefly, Latin is embedded in the church. Okay.
That I hope so.
It is not going anywhere. Okay. It may not be very visible in a lot of American parishes, but that has less to do with the fact that it's Latin and more to do with the fact that it is a foreign language. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later, Maria, in a minute. There's things I want to mention, but I want to conclude this and then we can talk
Sure.
about off the
Yeah,
record.
the young people are reflecting. I don't know.
That is very true. So anyway, let's
Yeah, okay.
finish up here and then we can shoot the breeze after class. All right, let's finalize here. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Okay, so now we are officially